JB here. JB here. One second. Hope everybody's doing outstanding. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at. Go from there. S&P in the green, or at least S&P futures this morning, just like yesterday, except yesterday substantially higher after that monster blowout jobs number. Joking aside, actually a strong report, all things considered. Um, and Here we are today. No news. I mean, we had jobless claims came out, 227 versus 222, so nothing there. And the big news will be tomorrow, CPI data. I mean, take a look at the probabilities that the market's pricing in for a Fed to cut the rates in the next meeting in 33 days or whatever. It's pretty much 0%. I think it's like 94% probability that there's going to be no rate cut. So it's hard to think that any data point that's strong, like the hotter than expected jobs number, would do anything for markets, right? Because normally markets sometimes they're pricing in rate cuts, and then we get some hotter than expected number, and those rate cuts get scaled back a little bit, and that typically markets sell off a little bit because they're worried about the Fed not being accommodated or what have you. We don't have that right now, right? We're kind of I wouldn't call it a Goldilocks scenario, but we're in a spot where the market's priced in no rate cut, and so any stronger than expected numbers almost reacted positively, right? We'll see what happens here today, right? This week I was talking about taking the training wheels off the market, see where we go without any crazy catalysts. We got pretty much most of the mega cap earnings out of the way, and now it's the software continues to be stealing headlines, right? And it's like every day you hear these stories about AI, like what's it gonna what other impacts is it gonna have in regards to jobs, right? And every day it's what jobs they're replacing. To me, it's like I keep and uh, I don't know exactly how this all plays out, right? I mean, it could be some scary scenarios, but to me, I think I put it on my top 5 stock webinar. I think AI is like an augment situation, right? It's not going to replace or it's not going to automate everything. It's going to augment, and it's going to help create efficiencies and things like that. But it's obviously it's going to replace some jobs, right? Uh, and then just had a little thing like efficiencies of companies, profitability, and then there'll be other jobs that are created from AI, right? But I don't even know what I was trying to. But with the software situation, the scary part is like what's the disruption in some of these names, and how far do they have to go? Yesterday, the big example was Shopify. I mean, uh, it was selling off in the software space for no reason that I could see. I mean, people just because it's in the sector, and then monster earnings, stock is gapping higher. I'm kicking myself for not adding calls, and boom, reverse course. I think it opened in the 130s, was 139 at the open. I think it was higher than that, 145 or so in the after hours and pre-market session, and it reversed course $30, 109 by noon hour. Crazy reversal. No news, no catalyst, and this morning again, more people upgrading the stock. So at some point these become buys, but it's like they're going to get oversold. The fundamentals don't matter right now. So when does that change? Is it today? So after the close yesterday, you're hoping that AppLovin could be another one of these names that kind of shows that, okay, the software sell-off is over. And here it is, another monster being raised. And it was actually looked like it was going to bounce. It was 440 about 5:30 this morning, and now it's kind of like selling off. Is this going to drop $50 at the open, right? So until we get out of that mindset, it's tough to get convicted of some of these names. Similarly, look at Reddit. Reddit's another name I was talking about yesterday. It was 150 or so on Tuesday. I'm waiting for that to bounce, right? Because I think, I mean, when I look at Reddit, I see a $300 stock. The market's saying, no, it's a $138 stock. It might say it's $120 or $110 stock before this is all said and done. So instead of trying to chase the calls, I'll either sit on my hands or I'll keep looking for opportunities to try and play a little bit for downside. So yesterday I got the Adobe puts. Frustrating. Adobe was a name I had puts on back last summer when it was 370 or 360 somewhere in there. It's kind of like this name that's going to get disrupted by AI, and that's finally taken hold. But also you look at the chart, it's a crazy pincher. So when it bounces, it's going to be a monster bounce. So we'll see what happens here today. I put in the watch list when I got the puts yesterday. I'm like, I'm just going to hold these because you don't know. We got a further pull in some of these names, and even like yesterday, I thought it was done, and then you look at Intuit, it's under $400. I'm like, is Intuit going to go to 250? Right? I mean, you got to start thinking crazy, because crazy is how you make the money on options a lot of times, right? If you hold for 100%, a lot of it's hard obviously to get 100% trade, but the harder gains are the bigger ones, and the big ones only happen if you hold for craziness, right? So anyway, not trying to go on a rant. Don't have much time here to the open, but overall market 693 on the SPY. Maybe 700 before the end of the week would be nice. 706 now is the upper Bollinger Band. CPI data tomorrow, maybe that's the catalyst. And that's that. So, all right, so that's overall markets. Also, I mean, market breadth, right? even under, despite the market, the software names selling off and the Bitcoin sell off last week and some of the other names still kind of like on the edge, you also have some strong names, right? I mean, take a look at Caterpillar. You still have, I put the little quote, the Micron CFO. It's one of the reasons why I was bullish SanDisk last quarter is because Micron pretty much says that the supply is an issue, right? It's not the demand side of the memory, it's the supply. Like they don't know when they're going to be able to meet the supply or the demand of what's needed, right? They don't have the supply to meet it. So if that continues, you have to think these stocks just going to just ramp higher. I mean, do you see SanDisk $1,000 at 1,200? Hard to play now. Not the type of risk reward I look at when I'm getting contracts, or I don't get $10 calls. That's just not my style, and I don't buy one contract. So anyway, all right. So that rants for other days. So that's overall market. Just quick on individual names. Enphase disappointing yesterday, right? I mean, I'm trying to time this. Finally, one of these days where it gaps and runs and doesn't sell off. Yesterday was not that day. So fifth day in a row after its earnings, open higher, ran to 51.84, and then boom, within a matter of 20 minutes or reverse course. In a couple hours, it reverse course $4. At some point, I look to get some more strikes. I'm not gonna average on the calls. So for me, I'll either go further out or I'll go lower strikes. Maybe I'll go further out. SolarEdge is going to report earnings on the 18th. That might be the next catalyst in the space. Oh, wrong chart. That was yesterday, or that was yesterday afternoon. This is today. All right. So that's Enphase. I'll continue to look for opportunities to trade that one. Viking Therapeutics had their earnings after the close yesterday, and their earnings just more updates on their studies, things like that. The stock's actually doing pretty well here in the pre-market. I still have February 50s, right? So pending any crazy move here, then February 20th, so I have some time. I'm not sure if I'm going to add any strikes, but just don't want to go on a tangent there. But if I do get some random calls, because it's, at some point maybe it starts to go. But I made a little joke like Morgan Stanley adjusted their price target from like 105 to 102 today, right? I'm like, what? They must have ran all these models and did all these studies to trim their target $3 on the stock. Yeah, all right. So that's okay. So Align Technologies, I was talking about the holds, right? The hold is the hardest part on options. Here I am yesterday watching Align trade between 196 and 197 while I'm sitting on those 195 strikes, which at times are up 1,000%. It's going to take like a $2 or $3 sell off, and those calls will be flat, right? So hard to hold them, but I only have a couple left, already riding free with plenty of profits. I think it gap fills at least to $200. So if that's the case, the call's gonna be $5 today, maybe tomorrow. And then I might look for some strikes into next week, maybe the 210s. Earnings smash up, right? This is kind of like when you look, company reports earnings, and now it's the market repricing the name based on those earnings. You have to think, and they've done this in the past too, where they announce an accelerated stock buyback program, 200 million, 300 million accelerated buyback program. They still have like 900 million left in their buyback. Probably going to happen. If it doesn't happen today or tomorrow, it's going to happen next week. So I would kind of want to be in the calls ahead of that. So I'll continue to look for opportunities to trade this one. If it starts breaking $200 and fills the gap and holds those gains, I think 220, 230. So call me crazy. All right. So that's a line. Other names, Corning, right? I was watching yesterday, dips down to 128. I took it off my main watch list. And then in the afternoon, thanks. Someone pointed out all the way up highs 133. It hit 137 in the overnight hours. This could be a name that has some crazy move just because people are looking for other, unmet needs in this AI data center situation. And, Corning's doing the fiber optics. It's not anything new, but they have that $6 billion contract with Meta. Are there going to be other news? The article in the Wall Street Journal talked about conversations possibly with NVIDIA. Who knows? But even a hint of that, I think, is good enough for the stock. Maybe it trades 150 plus. So if you had told me a name like SanDisk would go on an epic tear back at I remember looking at SanDisk when it was $100 in September of last year. I'm like, does this go to 150, 200? And here we are. I mean, just crazy things happen, right? And again, you have to be crazy to make money on the options. To think Corning could go to $150, I wouldn't say it's crazy, but might look for some strikes. I was looking earlier. The calls are expensive, so to try and trade it, I might wait, see if there's follow through, and then maybe get some lows. All right, so that's Corning. I talked about Adobe. Maybe Adobe gets down to 240. The other thing, look at the chart pinching. So when it does bounce, it's going to be nasty. But ServiceNow was pinching too. So we saw how that worked out. Other names. So after the close today, you have Roku reports. I was talking about yesterday afternoon on the Rant. I might get some 120s for next week. And then if I get a chance to lock some out to cover costs before the close, I might do that. Lots of names reporting after the close today. I think there's Roku. I'm trying to think of the other names. But all right, that's it. We have 3 minutes to open. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.